What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Goodol'boys YouTube channel. Quick video on buying bearings for a Trx4. This is a Trx's Trx4 crawler. You can see we've torn into it. Looks pretty nasty. The green grease is actually fresh grease that I put in there. Basically, I got this thing. It's completely locked up. Somebody had it in a lot of water, and then they just left it sit for a year or two or something crazy, because it's completely locked up. I've tried freeing up the bearings, greasing stuff. It's not going to work. So long story short, you're going to have to count the bearings for your model. The 2-speed trucks are more complicated and have more bearings. This is just the Trx4 Sport. I've been having a little bit of a hard time finding a bearing kit that will actually work for this and that has every single bearing you need. So anyways, we're going to show you guys how many bearings are in this thing total, and how many bearings of each different size are in this thing. Let's get to it. All right, so first of all, we have a whole list of all of the different bearing sizes. So this may be hard for you guys to read if you're not used to my handwriting, which you're probably not, but take a good look at this, screenshot it, or pause the video. This is the breakdown of every single bearing in the truck. Keep in mind, this is for the Trx4 Sport. This is the most basic edition of the truck. You have a single transmission that looks like this. No 2-speed, no locking differentials, nothing like that. All the axles are same from model to model truck. All the bearings are the same from model to model in the front and rear axles, as far as I know. And what we have here is the Trx4 Sport unassembled kit manual, assembly manual. So this really gets into detail and depth on bearing sizes, and this is kind of how I got the breakdown of how many bearings are in this thing. Now here's the chart I've came up with all the bearing sizes. If I'm not mistaken, this is 34 bearings to complete, or at that, let's see. So here's another chart. You guys are probably going to want to pause and take a screenshot or take a good look at. This is every single bearing in the truck categorized. So we have quantity and size, quantity and size. So this is your size of your bearing, and this is how many are required. All right. And keep in mind, this is for the entire truck. So if I'm not mistaken, there are 34 bearings total to complete an entire Trx4 Sport. So the problem with most kits here is that they include most of all these bearings, except normally they are 1 or 2 bearings short on the 5x11x4 bearings. So this is really what you have to keep a close eye on here. You want to check and make sure you have at least 12 of the 5x11x4 bearings. Like I said, the rest of these, if you have the Trx4 Sport, are what you need. So double check the list of these, of the bearings you're going to get from whatever site you decide to get them from. All right, so real quick, let's take a look at this manual. We'll show you guys a real quick breakdown here. For the transmission, you have the inner part where the gears and shafts are going to go. Let's see here. Let's see, what part is that? Yeah. So that's where these bearings go. So we have 5 by 11 by 4 bearings, and we have 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now you have this part of the transmission. It looks kind of like a triangle. You have 5 more of the 5 by 11 by 4 bearings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there's the transmission for you. All right, let's see here. Now, moving on to the axles. This is for the differential assembly. The bearings for these are both the same exact bearings for the front and rear axle. So you have the one that's closest to the spool, which is a 10 by 15 by 4 bearing. You have this outer bearing that goes kind of opposite of the spool, 7 by 14 by 5. Okay, now we have the pinion bearings. These are going to be the same from front to back. So now we have the pinion bearings. These are going to be the same from front to back. Both front and rear axles share the same pinion bearings. So you have a bigger one on the inside, which is going to be a 6 by 13 by 5. A smaller one on the outside, that's the 5 by 11 by 4. Now we're going to be moving on to the rear axle portals. So this is where it gets kind of important and different. Front and rear portals have a few different bearings. For the most part, they are kind of the same, but I think the top inner bearing is different. So anyways, this would be the outer portal case on your truck. So if you're looking at your truck, that's going to be when you look at the rear axle and you see this, the face with the hex. Normally you have a hex here. That's this gear, this part of the portal. So the top bearing is a 4 by 10 by 4, as you can see here. The bottom bearing is a 6 by 13 by 5. Now the inner portal housing is going to be on the back side of things here, where you see all these screws. This is what it looks like off the truck. You can tell it's the rear portal housing because it has these 2 through holes, one here and one here, to attach this portal box to the truck. You can see a bolt here and here. So the bottom bearing in this portal for the rear axle is a 6 by 12 by 4. Now, there's also a bearing that goes in the back side of the portal that you can't see when it's this way. So on this side, we have this bearing. This bearing goes on here and in the portal housing like so, and it is a 10 by 15 by 4. So that's the rear portals. All right. Moving on to the front axle. Like I said, the spool is the same. The pinion, let's see here if they even show the pinion. Pinion bearings are the same. This is where we have some different bearings. So, I guess there's only one different bearing between the front and rear portal housings, and that is kind of the input bearing, or this bearing. This goes into the back of the portal on the front axle. So that would be this portal right here, this bearing. You can see the rusty CVD shaft there, and you can see the bearing. That bearing is a 12 by 18 by 4. All right. And as I said before, The rest of these bearings are the same as the rear portal axle or the rear portal box. So on the bottom inner portal, you got a 6x12x4. On the outer bottom portal, you have 613.5. On the top outer portal, 4x10x4. And that's pretty much it. That's the breakdown of every single bearing that's inside a Trx4 Sport, just the basic edition. No lockers, no 2-speed transmission. Now, like I said before, I'm almost 100% sure all the bearings in all the axles across all Trx4 models are the same. Somebody can comment on that down below if you guys know any different. If not, I believe all the bearings are the same in the axles. Where you have a difference is in the transmission. They offered a 2-speed transmission in these. The 2-speed transmissions are more complicated. I think they may even possibly offer a transfer case setup on these. Not 100% sure, but that's where your difference is in the bearings between the 2-speed transmissions versus just the basic Trx4 Sport. So again, just to wrap this video up, this is for the Trx4 Sport, very basic edition, 1-speed, no lockers. What to look out for: you want to check through this entire list and make sure that you have the proper amount of each of these bearings. And specifically, most kits I have seen, they short you on these bearings, 5x11x4. You need 12 of them. And I suppose we'll go through the rest of these real quick. You need 4 10x15x4 bearings. You need 2 7x14x5 bearings. You need 4 4x10x4 bearings. You need 6 6x13x5 bearings. You need 2 12x18x4 bearings. And you need 4 6x12x4 bearings.